Welcome to the United Show, and we are live. It's Nathan Ellington here, your host, and today we have a special for you. We obviously got the Marcel, who's always here, the ever present, but we have today the Liga presenter. I know she's been doing quite a lot in different countries as well, but she's mainly known in Spain for the Liga information. Semra Hunter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks so much, and thanks for the introduction. It was very nice.
Well, Marcel, how are you doing today, actually?
I'm good, thank you. Business is starting to move in regards to Manchester United, so I'm happy right now. Football started, Premier League football started as of tomorrow. Sunday, Manchester United are playing. It's going to be a packed Old Trafford, so I'm very happy right now. You know, things are good, some good swing of things right now.
Well, I'm happy.
Days. You sound like one of the most positive Manchester United fans around right now, I have to say.
We are very positive here, but we want to be even more positive if you've got some good news to tell us about De Jong. That's the most important thing right now. We want to know what's going on here because it's been a madness so far. We have a lot of saga going on, and we just want to know the latest update on what's going on there. If you can give us some information on that, would be great.
All right. Well, let me start with this question to both of you. As fans of Manchester United, do you want him to come to your club?
Of course. What more do you want? I'll answer that first. You know,
okay.
Player of that.
I'm just asking because I'm curious if every Manchester United fan out there really wants him to come, or if it's a high percentage, small percentage. So, because unfortunately, I think I'm going to be the bearer of bad news. So you already know that Frenkie De Jong himself, 2 months ago at the beginning of the summer, in an interview with ESPN, he was very forthcoming in saying that he's at the club of his dreams. He doesn't want to leave. He's happy. And I don't think a personal dig at Manchester United necessarily. I don't think it has anything to do with them. I think it's all about where he is in life and how he's feeling at this stage at the club. And on top of that, he's owed a lot of money by Barcelona. He agreed to take a pay cut, I think last season or the year prior, just as many of the other players in the squad did as well. But really, they're just deferred wages. So what he wasn't paid back then, he's still owed by the club now. And on top of that, what's being reported is that as of this season going forward for the next 4 seasons, his salary actually jumps up quite a bit, and he'll be owed somewhere in the ballpark of 90 million euros across 4 years, if that turns out to be true. So from a financial point of view, it's perfectly reasonable and understandable as to why he doesn't want to leave Barcelona, especially if you want to throw into the mix that we have great weather. I live in Barcelona, by the way. So when I say we, I'm just throwing in the fact that I also get to enjoy the great weather, the great food, the sunshine and everything else. And
different
I think
to
he's
Manchester.
Quite settled. It's very different to Manchester. And he's quite settled here. I think I also saw that about a year ago or in the last year, he also bought a house, if I'm not mistaken. So he does seem as though he's trying to throw down some roots. He doesn't want to go anywhere. Even if the club are saying different things and the journalists are saying different things, he hasn't wavered. And I think 2 months gone by have proved that he's saying what he really believes. So on top of that, you have to throw in the mix Champions League football, right? Like any elite footballer, they want to play in the Champions League. And unfortunately, at least in the short term, Manchester United can't offer that. And so I don't think he wants to go play in the Europa League. And he knows he'll get Champions League football with Barcelona. And I think that's where Chelsea comes into the mix, because now all of a sudden they seem to have picked up their interest in him. It possibly could happen. It could be more attractive to him to go to London to play in the Champions League. To have a different experience, who knows? But as of right now, as of today, he wants to stay put, and I don't see him going anytime soon, unless somehow probably Chelsea swoop in ahead of Manchester United and make a deal with Barcelona.
Right. I need to mention something here because I'm sure Marcel's got it on his mind as well. Now, why the hell are Man United still sticking around? Why is Ten Hag still waiting if he knows that he's just not interested at all in coming, no matter what? There's so many obstacles you've just mentioned there that he just never would come. So in my mind, as a football player, for me, I was thinking of it right. How is it really going to be the case if they're really waiting for him? It would be, listen, I want to stay at Barca. I want Champions League. But if worse came to worse and I had to leave and you were the only option, I will come to you. But other than that, if someone else comes in the Champions League, I ain't coming. And that's the way I feel like it is. I don't know what you think, Marcel. If you want to add to that.
Well, I mean, I do understand that obviously Frankie De Jong, that's his dream club, Barcelona. So if at any way possible he can stay there, I think he will. But at the end of the day, I do think that they are trying to force him out the club, Semra. And that's kind of the attitude or feeling that I get into regards of Laporta. The fact that he's been moved to the centre back position. These are all kind of signs that maybe they're trying to push him out. I mean, is he not on the highest wages within the club at the moment? So, with that, and it's going to increase further potentially, I feel like, it's only a matter of time maybe before they push him out the club, and that make the situation difficult for him.
Yes. I think that what publicly is being said by the likes of Laporta isn't exactly in line with what they're really thinking or what they're really feeling. Javier Tebas, who is the president of La Liga, he spoke a few days ago and made it expressly clear that based on the Football Federation here in Spain Association, you cannot force a player to be sidelined. You cannot pressure them to leave. You cannot, for lack of a better word, you can't extort them to leave. Basically, you can't try and force them out. And so he was sending a message to Barcelona that if the player doesn't want to leave, by law, he can stay. And so it's kind of interesting to see what is going on in terms of the dynamics of what's being said and done publicly and what's actually happening behind the scenes. Because you kind of do get this feeling that even though they're saying, oh, if he wants to stay and we're happy with the decision and we'll make it work, really, they're probably sweating and thinking it would be so much better for us and so much easier for us financially to get everybody registered if we can get them out the door. So today, what's being discussed amongst the media in Catalonia is the idea of a fourth palanca or a fourth lever that has been activated in the sense that Barcelona have been given the green light to use it if they so choose. It doesn't mean that they have done so yet. But if they do go ahead and do that, it would be a continuation of selling off all of these so-called family heirlooms or family jewels, if you like. And I think it would be something like another 25% of their media, was it like the media rights or the Barca studio, something like that, they would sell it off. And so that means they would bring in about another 100 million euros, which in theory would be enough to cover for getting all of those players registered, which at present, I think it's about 8 players. So it's like 6 signings plus Dembele plus Sergi Roberto, who kind of count as new signings because they had to re-sign a new contract, basically. So to get all of them registered for La Liga, according to the financial fair play rules, then they may need to do that as a way of making that happen rather than trying to force Frenkie De Jong out the door. So if he wants to stand firm and stand his ground and say, sorry, I'm not going anywhere, then Barcelona may have no other option but to pull this fourth lever in order to get everybody on board. And then some. Apparently, there would be enough room for them to even bring in some more players as well. So we'll see. But I think in the next few days, remember, La Liga starts next weekend, not this weekend. So there's still about a week to go. They're still trying to get the paperwork together to present it to La Liga to see if they have enough lined up that they can go ahead and do what they want to do. But perhaps they will in the next few days or next week have to pull this fourth lever as plan B, effectively.
So this is already on their fourth. I believe I thought, as far as I was up to date, it was the second that they were on. But they've already executed the third. Wasn't this detrimental, this mortgaging of their assets? Isn't this detrimental to them in the long term, Semra?
Exactly.
And get these assets that they're bringing in, the players, do they have similar deferred wage kind of contracts as Frenkie De Jong, because they might face similar problems in the future? Or is it just Frenkie De Jong that has that unique contract? Obviously, you've got PK that's owed so much money as well. I don't know if they've executed Messi's deal fully to the extent, or is that completely finished? There's so much problems in terms of their wages that they still owe players. Malcolm, I've understood, maybe he's owed a few million somewhere. Are they able to still have execute these deals and keep the likes of Frenkie De Jong? I'm hearing Aubameyang's up for sale. I'm hearing Memphis Depay's potentially up for sale. Will there still be outgoings from Barcelona, or are we going to see just the business done once the fourth lever is executed?
Well, I think there's definitely going to be more business done in terms of selling or loaning out players if Barcelona can manage to do that, because they do need to get players off the books. That would help. Another way of trying to alleviate some of the issues that they're having financially would be to lower wages, which they've already done with several players, or to get players moved on off the books. You mentioned Aubameyang. As far as the media over here are concerned, he's absolutely not for sale. Xavi wants him. Xavi wants him to stay. He's going to include him in his plans. Aubameyang is very, very happy here. He knows he's going to get his minutes as well. So for me, I personally don't believe any of the rumors that he is up for sale, because as far as Barca are concerned, he's not going anywhere. Memphis Depay is a different story altogether. I think it is very highly likely that he could be loaned out and perhaps maybe sold as well. The same could actually happen with Frenkie De Jong. They could loan him out for a season, but then decide to include an automatic or an obligated, an obligatory buy option at the end of this coming season, basically, effectively, that they would have to purchase him for about 80 million, something like that. But at least for this season, they would get his wages off the books. So they are looking at different formulas. And I think it's still too soon to really know the long-term impact of all of this, because basically Laporta says he's not a gambling man, that he's taking calculated risks. And so you want to think that that's the case. You would want to think that they've done their due diligence, that they've tried to sort out this mess that they've inherited from Bartomeu. That's the other thing we have to remember. Bartomeu was the one who's responsible for the negotiations and the deals and the contracts for players like Frenkie De Jong, not the current board. So they have that against them as well to work through. So the thing is, we have to see how this is all going to play out. But in a nutshell, in the simplest way possible, I think I can describe this, what Barcelona are trying to do is to bet on their long-term future by going in now, splashing the cash, trying to bring in really effective, high-quality players, which, let's face it, they've done a brilliant job. I think all of the signings are really top class and will really suit the style of play that Xavi wants for Barcelona and can really help to make them competitive. But what they're betting on is that by making them more competitive, that will translate into more silverware. More silver will translate into more popularity. More popularity will translate into more revenue, and so on and so on. The snowball effect. And by doing so, in the long term, they will be able to make the money back and then some, because, of course, they have to pay everything back with interest. But if this goes spectacularly wrong and it doesn't come together and they win nothing, and they don't generate all the money that they've been generating. You have to remember, I think it was a couple of seasons ago, they were really, really close to raking in 1 billion euros, and they would have been the first club to ever do so. And so they're banking on that. They're banking on the fact that they think they can still do that. And so if for whatever reason that doesn't happen, then they're going to be in a serious world of trouble in a few years. So again, it's way too soon to know. It's way too early. We'll have to see how this season plays out and how things go in the future to get a better idea of how it might go. But it certainly is fascinating. That's for sure.
For me, it's just unbelievable to see that, because it's like they are really taking a massive risk. It's not calculated to me. It seems like, listen, this is it. We have to become the best again, or we're just going to die and just go to the bottom leagues by getting, going bankrupt. That's what it looks like. I think
it's calculated in the sense that they've taken a look at what happened with Bartomeu. They've obviously gone through all of the financial mismanagement, and they've said, okay, how can we fix this? And so they've come up with different ways to go ahead and do so. I think that's what he's trying to say here. It's not like they're just, taking a stab in the dark here and saying, well, let's just try this. Well, let's just try that. No, I think they've actually thought things through. And Mateo Alemán, who is the one really responsible for being the go-get-it-done man, let's say, has been doing a pretty good job of that so far. So,
He's done a great job in getting all these players. I don't know how they're doing it. That's what King Eric has just asked. How the hell are they getting all these players? It doesn't make much sense to me, especially the fact that they're talking about getting rid of De Jong. And, I've seen it before when they want a player gone, they can't say it outright. But they obviously have to say it in a way where the player thinks, you know what, it's going to be uncomfortable for me here. If I'm here after that window, I know this is not going to be nice. So that's what I feel like is going to happen to De Jong. But again, he is a good player, so they might still use him. But at the same time, I just think, if they really want to get him out, he's probably going to go Chelsea. From the looks of it, if he's going anywhere, for me, I would say he's going to go Chelsea. I don't know what you think, Semra. But...
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very probable and very likely that he stays put in Barcelona. But if in the end he does end up leaving, then I think Chelsea would probably be the number one place that he'll be going. Yeah. I don't think Manchester United is an option. I'm sorry to say. I just don't see that happening at all. It's not about money. You know what I mean? Because apparently, reportedly, Manchester United were willing to pay those deferred wages for Frenkie De Jong in order to entice him to come. And he still said no. So it's about a football project as well. And so you have to remember, I think you were asking just now about why the club is still able to bring in so many players of his caliber. Well, you have to remember Xavi's there, and Xavi has a huge pull and a huge effect. And if you listen to every single signing that has come in this summer, bar none, all of them have said that Xavi had a massive impact on their decision. And he's very convincing. I think he's like Guardiola or like Klopp. He's very charismatic, and he can sell an idea to you and make you feel like you're really going to be part of that and have an important part to play in it as well. And so don't underestimate the effect that Xavi can have on a player. And effectively, I think, despite everything that's been going on with the club financially, the mess and how uncompetitive they've been in the last few seasons, he's selling this idea that they're going to be a lethal team, dangerous to come up against, that they'll be winning stuff again. And you buy into that idea. And I think he is capable of doing that with the club. And by bringing in these players, I think they have every chance of going back up into the league once again. And so who doesn't want to be part of that? You know, it's still a big club, one of the biggest in the world. It has a huge cachet, and it still has the pull of other clubs like a Real Madrid or Manchester United or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So, Semra, can I extend that token to you, though? I still feel like Ten Hag has that pull in the same way, not in the exact same way as Xavi. I think Xavi's had a spectacular playing career as well and is doing quite well in management. But I feel like Ten Hag also has that pull, and in particularly with Frenkie De Jong. I'm one of maybe the only few believers that he, you know, if there's any other club that he'll be going to, Samurai, it would be Manchester United. I think we all are in unanimous agreement that obviously it's Barcelona and only Barcelona. But for some reason, that dream of Barcelona has been very clouded. I feel like he really is being pushed out at the moment. If there is any other club other than Barcelona, I think solely because of that relationship with Ten Hag, that it would be Manchester United. Obviously, the family issues, I think he's been engaged, and London would be a much better prospect. The Champions League football would also be a better prospect as well. But that can change within a year. And he gets to play in the position where he done so well. Obviously, Xavi has, I think, prioritized Sergio Busquets, the way that Sergio Busquets plays the six, in comparison to the way that Frenkie De Jong does with coming out with the ball, whereas Sergio Busquets is very well positioned at all times and disciplined in terms of playing the ball through the thirds. Frenkie De Jong almost plays like a free roaming 10, but in the sixth position. So, you know, with that being said, it's Ten Hag that's going to allow him to express himself in that way. I don't think Tuchel's able to do that. It's two in the midfield with Tuchel.
I wouldn't write off the idea of Xavi using a 3-4-3, which is a system that actually Johan Cruyff used during his management days with Barcelona. And actually everyone associates the 4-3-3 with Barcelona, which is true, but that's more recent. Before that, it was the 3-4-3. And so I could see potentially that being a system that could actually benefit the likes of Frenkie De Jong, because you're right, Busquets, as long as he stays fit and he doesn't get injured, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be starting pretty much every single game.
He's the highest paid player in the club, I believe.
I think, obviously I can't confirm this, I haven't seen everybody's contracts, but at least what's being reported is that it's actually Frenkie De Jong.
Yeah, and then
that's
second
one of the
Busquets.
reasons. Yeah, I think Busquets would be second. Maybe I'm trying to think who was like Jordi Alba or something like that. No, Lewandowski I think is a little bit farther down the list actually. But in any case, it's a significant jump between the likes of the Busquets and then Frenkie De Jong. But again, that has to do with everything that they agreed upon in terms of deferring wages and taking wage cuts, because Frenkie De Jong also did, as far as I understand, he did take a wage cut as well. But in any case, I'm not sure that Ten Hag has the level of pull with Frenkie De Jong that everyone seems to think that he does have. Because from what I've seen, he doesn't have a particularly close relationship from their time at Ajax. I think they got on well, and I think he was a wonderful manager for him, and I think he really appreciated him setting up to be the player that he's going to become. We all know that he has bags of talent. There's no question about it. Even if he hasn't had the best time of it at Barcelona, has never really fully settled in to fulfill that potential that we know that he has. But it doesn't seem to be enough of a pull. And I think beyond that, you have to look at the whole ecosystem of what's going on internally right now at Manchester United. And I think everybody knows that it's it's a mess, to put it nicely, right? And I think from a football project, it's very much in need of a rebuild. You look all over the pitch and there's still a lot of areas that need to be reinforced. And so we're talking about Manchester United not being in the Champions League this year, but they may not even qualify next year either. So it may take a while for Ten Hag to really sink his teeth into the club, to really get his philosophy across, to really get the players to buy into it and to apply what he's telling them to do, to then all of a sudden start attracting other bigger names back to the club, because Manchester United is Manchester United at the end of the day. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world, and historical greatness plays into that. In that way, it's very much like a Real Madrid. So I think it's not just down to Ten Hag. I think there are a lot of other factors that play into De Jong's decision into not going to Manchester United, at least now at this point in time. Who knows, maybe 5 years from now, it'll be a completely different story. But he seems pretty determined to stay, even if it means that he's playing as a centre-back for Xavi. He doesn't seem to be bothered by the fact that Xavi may use him in different positions.
Yeah, well, to be fair, look, I think the last I'm going to talk about this guy until he hopefully comes is I do share a little bit of that, what you do as well, Marcel, because I can't see how they're going to hold on all this time. And there was nothing there. Like, there was no conversation or nothing being said that makes you think that he's going to come. So that, I don't think he is going to come, but there's got to...
because I'm sure there was interest between the two clubs. Yeah. I'm sure that Barcelona were quite keen to accept the offer, but at the end of the day, the player has to accept.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, well, we're on to another person who's obviously high on the list of wanting to know what's going on. And this man's name is none other than Cristiano Ronaldo. This guy's obviously, he wanted to leave. And what was weird about that as well for me is he said he wanted to leave. And I was thinking he must have somewhere to go because his agent must have been talking first to then come out and say, I want to leave. But it turns out like, seems no one's interested. But then we're hearing that there are some rumors of, Atleti Madrid, maybe, but I can't see that happening. What do you think on that one, Semra?
No chance. No chance. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news for you. I don't know if you want him to stay at the club or not, but he's definitely not going to Atletico Madrid. I don't know.
Where do you see him going? Where do you see him going? Where do you think is an option for him? Even possible?
I don't see him going anywhere. If I'm really honest with you, he's 37 years old. He's in the tail end of his career. His body's slowly going to start failing him. We all know that he has issues with his knees and probably other niggling issues as well physically that we don't know about necessarily. He's obviously in phenomenal shape. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And he still can score a lot of goals. He can still make an impact. I'm not denying that. But I think it was Arrigo Sacchi today, for example, was talking about Cristiano Ronaldo's time at Juventus. And he said, make no mistake, the team had to play around him, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then what manager at a major club in Europe is going to want to change everything to bring in Cristiano Ronaldo for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, and to play to his strengths and to adapt and to build a team around him? Personally, I just don't see it happening. Real Madrid have never once opened the door again to him after he left. It was very clear that when he did leave, that he was not going to be welcomed back as a player. So that's just completely ruled out of the equation. Atletico Madrid, maybe Diego Simeone respected him, would like to have him in the team, but it was just not going to happen. Financially, they can't bring him in. They would have to sell off quite a few players, and they don't seem to want to do that. They seem quite happy with the transfer business that they've had so far. And on top of that, the president, Enrique Cerezo, has confirmed, or insists anyway, that they're not buying anybody else for the rest of the summer. They're done as far as they're concerned. Maybe buying and loaning, selling and loaning is a different story. But buying, they said they're done. So that's out of the picture. He's not going back to Juventus, obviously. Yeah. He's not going to go to Manchester City. Haaland just arrived. He's not going to go to Liverpool. So PSG obviously is not an option as well, I wouldn't think.
There's no way.
Quite frankly, I don't see him being able to go anywhere. I think he has to stay at Manchester United, whether he likes it or not.
Do you think that's an issue? Do you think that's an issue for him in terms of, performance? Or do you think he will knuckle down and still be able to perform well throughout the season? I think he will, but just what's your thoughts on that?
I think depending on his attitude, depending on how he handles things going forward, it could be a bigger issue for Ten Hag and for the team than for him.
Exactly what I was thinking. for me, all I'm thinking is I hope that he doesn't think like he felt last season, where he thinks he has to play 90 minutes of every game, because that's going to ruin everything for United. I feel Martial needs to get his chance to play more games now, and Ronaldo has to understand where he is in his career now and go, listen, I know I've been the best ever, whatever everyone can say, but I'm old now. I can't play 90 every week. I'm just going to integrate in the side and play when I'm needed. But it's not going to do it.
When has Cristiano Ronaldo, with all due respect, ever played like a team player? It's all about him.
Yeah.
And for a long time, you could understand why. I mean, sure, he proved that he was one of the best in the world, if not the best. And I think he's probably, in terms of goal scorers, leaving Messi out of the conversation here for totally different reasons, but just pure goal scorers, I don't think anyone's done it better than him in the 21st century, right? And so it's always been about the individual. And I think that for a long time, it works really, really well. But it's like anything in life, either you adapt or you die, right? And so I think at this stage of his career, he doesn't have any other option but to adapt. But I'm not sure that he knows how to. And so that, I think, is going to hurt him a lot more than it's going to hurt the team and the club, if I'm really honest with you. Because at some point, Ten Hag is not going to put up with that. Clearly, with his public statements, he's not happy already. So that's not a great start. But he has the power to not play him if he doesn't want to. Whether the board will support that decision remains to be seen, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know if he's being told he has to play Cristiano Ronaldo or not, if he has full reign to do whatever he wants. We'll see how that unfolds. But at the end of the day, Ten Hag, like most managers, as long as they're able to, they're going to do what benefits the whole of the team. So
I just hope Ten Hag's strong enough to be able to do that. He seems like he is, and I don't know what you think, Marcel, as well, but we need him to be strong in this situation. Just like he said when he left half-time, if that's something that he didn't accept and didn't condone happening, and he said it outright now, listen, that's not allowed. I don't accept that. Hopefully there will be something for that, if some kind of repercussion for him doing that, and hopefully he can just integrate, just have a nice meeting, say, listen, just come on.
I don't think
it would be great if it could. I don't think it will either, but I think it would be wonderful if it did. And honestly, I think he'd get a lot more out of it as well if he did.
For his career, 100%. I think Chelsea might be the last straw for him. He might be able to get something for Chelsea if Chelsea can't get another player. You've obviously enlightened us, Semra, in terms of Aubameyang potentially not leaving anywhere. So that gives us, because I've obviously been reading Aubameyang to Chelsea. But if that doesn't work out and they can't get another striker to compete with Broja, then it's definitely going to be maybe Cristiano Ronaldo. I've been reading that the chairman of Chelsea has got a contract sorted out for him, but it's just on Tuchel. It's Tuchel's decision. In terms of
that's a good point, actually. I forgot about Chelsea as a possible destination for him.
It is a possible destination for him, but in terms of Ronaldo and that wages, Samra, do you think anyone in world football would really want to pay that astronomical wages? Do we see him taking a wage cut, and does he go somewhere else in terms of out of this continent? Out of this continent, maybe into Saudi Arabia or America. Would that happen, or it definitely won't? I think Manchester United, we're digging our heels and he stays. But if there is potential moves anywhere, I think it is maybe to Chelsea or to out of the continent.
Yeah, I think if he's going to stay in Europe, Chelsea might be the only realistic place that he can go to, because like we said, I think we basically named off the biggest clubs in Europe across the board, more or less. And there just isn't a vacancy or needs or an interest, just flat out. So will he take a pay cut? I understand why he probably feels that he deserves to be paid what he's getting paid, because he's earned the right. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he's so incredibly financially well off. I'm sure he could be just fine if he decided to take a pay cut. It's not going to affect him necessarily. Will he be willing to do that? I don't know. It may be the case that if that's the only option he has, and he's presented with, listen, you can stay in England, you can stay in Europe's elite, you can play with Chelsea and, Champions League, all this kind of stuff, but you have to take a pay cut. Or if you want higher wages because that's just more important to you, then, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's about priorities. If he's more interested in making the money, then he may have to go somewhere like the States or Asia or the Middle East. So I think it comes down to ultimately what he really wants and what he's really after and what he's willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that gets sorted. But we had someone here saying swapping for Anthony would make Ajax a fortune. And that was a good thing. I was speaking to I had my physio I was speaking to, and he said exactly that. Because I think they sold their striker, didn't they? The one who's at West Ham. They haven't really got a replacement. We want Anthony. They could just take Cristiano off Anthony. Take Anthony and pay him some money.
Well, there you go. Maybe that could be kind of one out of left field that comes up out of nowhere. And I don't see that one happening, though, I have to say. But
yeah, I wish. Hopeful thinking. And then you've got the Bayern situation where it's just Muller up front now, isn't it, really?
And Bayern are not going to take him. I think they've already publicly said as well that they're not interested.
Right. So. Okay. So we've got the last little bit. I know we're at 30 minutes now, so I just wanted to quickly touch upon this Tele situation. I know he's just moved on loan. So what can you tell us about this one? And obviously we'll wrap it up at the end with this one.
I think it's a really exciting move for him and for Sevilla. Sevilla are in desperate need of reinforcing pretty much, I don't want to say every position, but a lot of positions, especially now that they've lost Diego Carlos and Koundé, their central defensive pairing. They really need to bolster the defense because they're leaking in goals all over the place during the preseason, and it does not bode well. So I think it's really exciting. I think it fits really well into how Lopetegui likes to play. It's going to be really good competition for Marcos Acuna, who is the left back. And I think they have a really similar profile in that they're both very offensive fullbacks, who are almost more like wing backs than anything else. And Telles, as far as I understand, is quite good going forward. He's one of the best crosses into the area from that position. And he's very, very attack-minded, which is what Sevilla like and what Sevilla needs. Although they also need somebody in the box to finish off those moves, because unfortunately that's something that really, really affected them last season, was their lack of goal-scoring prowess and their ability to just find the back of the net. I mean, their strikers were woeful in terms of the return. I think Rafa Mir was the highest scoring player, and he was second fiddle for most of the season, and he scored 10 goals. So everyone else was like 3 or 4, which is obviously not good enough if you're an attacking player. So the delivery is there on the left-hand side, and I think that is really, really good for them. They'll need that. They have some really good players on the right-hand side, like Jesus Navas, who even though he's like 36, 37, whatever it is, he's like Benjamin Button. He's just getting better with age. He's looking younger too. But it's brilliant. I think it's a really good signing for Sevilla and for La Liga, but hopefully they can bring in some more signings as well, because otherwise it's going to be a really rough campaign for them, I fear.
Do you think this becomes a permanent deal? This is obviously currently a loan, and you're 100% sure it's going to be? It won't.
Well, I can't say 100% because I haven't read the contract, but I'll say I'm 99% sure that this is strictly a 1-year loan deal. That there is no option to buy him at the end of the loan. He will have to go back to Manchester United at the end of this. So
let's see how we go. Go on.
Would you see any of the Barcelona players maybe? Because, it's a bit left field, but there's obviously a relationship there between the director at Seville and the director at Barcelona. Would we see any maybe of the Barcelona players going the Seville way in terms of bolstering their squad?
Well, perhaps. Why not? Sevilla could really use a striker, an attacking player. Memphis Depay could be a good fit for them. He's quite versatile. He can play out wide and come inside. He's not exactly an out-and-out traditional number 9, is he? But he is quite a good offensive player, and he would get a lot of minutes, which is something that I think he wants and needs. It could be a good fit for him. That could be a possible destination for Memphis Depay and someone they're trying to offload as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Perhaps I would say him and maybe somebody else. I would have to think about it off the top of my head. Nobody else really comes to mind, I have to say. Mingueza has just left the club. He went to Celta. Neto,
Serginho
I think, is going. Serginho Dest. I'm not sure if they want to move him on because they don't. I mean, Dani Alves ran out of his contract. He wanted to stay. They didn't offer him an extension or a new contract, so he's not at the club. So Serginho Dest is really the only right back that they have, even though Araujo is a really versatile defender and can also play on that right-hand side if necessary. So he could be playing there as well. I think he has done so already a little bit this preseason. And
Sergio Roberts as well.
Sorry?
Sergio Roberts as well, I think. Is it Sergio Roberts' name?
Sergio Roberto.
Roberto.
So Sergio Roberto is like a utility player because he's
Yeah.
actually a midfielder.
Yeah,
But he's
yeah.
one of those players that basically he just gets put into different holes to patch things up whenever they needed him to.
Utility
But
man.
he hasn't even been registered yet. He's
Oh,
one
he's
of
not
those players. I believe he hasn't been registered yet to play for La Liga this season. He's one of those in the group of all of those new signings that are still waiting to find out their destiny for the future.
Well, that date comes on the 14th, Semra, right? Is it the 14th that they have to? Because you said it's within a week's time now. So could we potentially, if Frenkie De Jong's going to leave, would that be the big sign if he's not part of that registered squad for the Liga, or if we are to sell him, or if Barcelona really want to sell him, or if we see any sort of news, it will be within these 7 days.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. I think there's still the possibility that they can register players until the window closes.
Okay.
So until the end of the month, I still think that they have the ability to do so. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's the case because they were talking about, they were hoping to get them registered before the first weekend, but if not, I think they still have a bit of time to do that. So it's not do or die or do or bust or whatever it is by next week. But they obviously want to get it done now as quickly as possible and get everybody ready to go for the start of La Liga.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm happy Tellez is gone. He's gone on loan and gets to play every week.
Well, don't be too happy. He may come back really fit and better player than before. So
exactly, if he goes out and does well, and I can now watch him every game in Spain and see how he's getting on, and I can decide whether he can come back or not. But yeah.
Well, hopefully he can keep his fitness up as well. I know he was struggling with injuries last season.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but it's just never really kicked on where we wanted to get, where we thought we could get to with United. And that's the thing. Now we've got Malacia in. It looks like he's cemented that spot, and Shaw will be behind him. So I can't see Tellez getting much minutes. So it's great that he's moved on. So yeah.
Well, hopefully it reignites his career a bit then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what we got the last bit here. Tellez should do fine in Spain. So I guess that's all we got time for. We're 7 minutes over the time that we asked for from you, Semra. So thank you for spending extra time, a few extra minutes in Fergie time. And,
you're very welcome. Squeaky bum time, right?
Yeah, it's been great. Marcel, you've been great as well. Thanks for coming on, both of you as well. And look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. So with that being said, stay safe and wash your hands.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.